All right, so let's jump in. So today we're going to be talking about social media in your career. If you have questions along the way, obviously I've got a presentation I'm going to give. I'm going to leave plenty of time for questions and answers. But if you have questions, pop them in the chat. There's only a few of us here. Please feel free to just unmute yourself or raise your hand. I'd be happy to answer your questions. Please interrupt me. Don't wait. If you're waving or something, I may not see you, but just interrupt me, please. All right, so hopefully y'all can see my screen. My name is CC Chapman. I am an instructor of business and management here at Wheaton. I've also spent the last several decades living and breathing social media. It's what I do. My background's in digital marketing, doing all sorts of crazy campaigns and crazy, stuff for JetBlue and HBO and Warner Brothers and Coke and all sorts of other things. So I live on social media, and I want to give some advice to no matter what grade you are, what stage of looking for jobs you are. I just want to give some practical advice on how you can use social media. Now, obviously, social media depends. Everyone has to decide their own good and bad because there is plenty of both on social media. So I want to focus on, why it's important. I meant to start this beforehand just to know. Just so you can see that I believe in what I say. I'm not just making it up. I tweet too much. I post to Instagram way too often. If there is a social network out there, I am probably using it, or at least checking it out. I try to stay on top of things that are going on out there in the real world and on social media. It's where I spend my time. It's how I've connected. It's how I got this job at Wheaton back in the day. But listen, so social media can be a double-edged sword. You should always assume that future or present employers are going to look at your profiles that are public. One of the first things I do when I find a candidate, I don't usually, if I'm hiring, I won't look at it before I actually bring them in for an interview. But if someone's made it through the interviews and I'm thinking about hiring them or they're about to go on, the first thing I'm going to do is Google their name. You should Google your name. You should Google your name because if you have a little bit common name, someone else might pop up and they might judge you based on what they see, and you don't want that to happen. I don't want you to ever not be you. I'm one of those people that firmly believe you should be who you are online, what you're comfortable with sharing. But understand, you never know what someone's going to judge you on. You never know whether you share a belief in something that someone else doesn't believe in. You might be judged on that. I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily. I've always told people I would much rather not get a job or not get a client. I mean, I was freelance for a long time. I don't know how often someone would say, well, Cece, why, you're sharing some beliefs out there rather openly about, whether it's politics or organizations I'm involved with or whatever. They're like, aren't you scared about scaring away clients? And my answer has always been, well, I would rather lose the client or lose the job than take it and find out later that I do not mix with them well. That's my philosophy. I know that's a lot easier to say when you've been out having a career for a little while. That first job, you want it. But at the same time, I encourage you, be yourself. Be very aware of what's going on. The internet is full of less than good people, I'll put it that way. Just be aware that anything you say, can be held against you. It's kind of like, when you get arrested, which I hope none of you ever do. But be confident, be you, share yourself, because that shows a side of you beyond the resume. I hate the fact that we're judged by a piece of paper, right? I hate that. That's why I like face-to-face interviews and getting to know people. It's why, when I have classes, I tell my students, you don't have to have your cameras on, but I like it when you do, because then I can see you and interact. So just understand all this is double-edged sword. Now, career services always gets mad when I say this, but Handshake and LinkedIn alone is not going to get you your dream job. Yes, it might get you a job. These tools, Indeed, Monster.com, all the job search sites are fantastic. They are fantastic for finding opportunities, and you might find your dream job there. But I don't think that alone is going to help you. If you assume magically by you putting your profile on Handshake or putting in your job search on Indeed or LinkedIn that your dream job is going to get handed to you, I'm here to tell you it's not going to happen all the time. Some of you will, but I think you have to be more proactive. And that's what I want to talk about today, is give some practical, tactical advice that you can be proactive to actually go out there and help find a job or an internship, or at least get connected. So this is a former student. Nathan graduated last spring. Nathan is a artist, and I'm showing his website here. It's copperminted.com if you want to check it out afterwards. But I just shared to show one of the opportunities you can do is to create a personal website. I'm not saying you have to, but it certainly doesn't hurt. Obviously, Nathan is much more artistic. That's his brand. Here's his about page. We went back and forth. Nathan and I had a special relationship when he was at Wheaton, and like this is not your standard, about me page. This is not the standard thing, but this is Nathan. This is him sharing himself. And he does have a traditional resume, of course, but he also wants to make sure that they realize that he's more than just a piece of paper. Yes, he's an artist. He's a graffiti artist. He likes streetwear. That's his brand. The more you know about yourself, the more you can push forward is always a good thing. If I see a URL on somebody's resume, I'm instantly clicking on it to check out. When I see professors do it, when I see students do it, it's the very first thing I click on because I want to see how they represent themselves. Now this, Nathan has some web design skills. He has a very clear aesthetic. This is a little bit more than what you're like, oh my God, I can't do this. So then, this is his Instagram account where we've gone back and forth where you can see this is not, there's a mix of professional and personal. Those stickers are the ones he designed. Down there in the bottom, the picture where he's got his arms crossed. I know that was a summer internship he did with a Wheaton alum. That the picture of the masked graffiti guy, that's out back of the old athletic center on campus, actually. So he balances out to show that, he's got Instagram and he's using it for personal fun stuff, but he's also mixing in and highlighting some of the professional stuff so people can see what he's involved in. Now, again, this is a lot. I'm not saying you have to have that much. Here's the other alternative. Here's the other end of the spectrum. This is my son's website. Very, very simple. He graduated with a degree in game design, but he wanted to have a quick portfolio website where you can see this is nothing high tech, simple about me projects, a cover of his senior capstone project, and a contact. That way he can highlight, because on a single page resume, it's really hard to show all the work that you might do, whether it's in class, in your classes or your senior seminar here on campus or those sort of things. He wanted to put together a simple website. He had never built one before. And of course I helped him with it, but it was very simple. He didn't want all the graphics and the flash. It is kind of funny that his green sort of matches up with Nathan's. I didn't mean that, but it gives something beyond the resume, beyond your LinkedIn profile to show to people. Obviously he's linked to his socials down below as well. That's up to you whether you're doing it or not. But I want to see other sides of people when I'm interviewing them. I want to see what they're into. And you can do this, setting up a simple blog or a simple website, whether it's using, a Squarespace or a Wix or a WordPress. There are tons of opportunities out there. For those of you that are first year students, I know Wheaton is working towards the idea of being able to have a digital portfolio of some sort for all students on campus. I don't know, I'm not involved with that direct project, but I know it's one that's happening. That's part of the new curriculum. So that will be coming at some point. So hopefully you would have an opportunity to build something like this or different on campus. There are web design courses if this stuff excites you, but you do not need a lot of skills to do something as simple as this, just to have a home for your creations, whether it's your artwork, whether it's your, in this case, game design projects, maybe it's your writing, those sort of things. You can share a lot of different things about you to help you get jobs and get access to stuff. Oh, someone wants to join. Let me let on. Here's another example. Kiki is another graduate. Kiki is currently on finally doing her Fulbright scholarship in Korea, which I am so proud of her for doing. But the reason why I share this is, so this is actually on LinkedIn, and Kiki wanted to showcase her writing more. She, while her degree was not in writing, she wrote a blog post, on LinkedIn. She didn't want to set up a profile or build a website. She didn't want to do all that. But she had a LinkedIn account, and LinkedIn allows anybody who wants to start publishing blog articles. And so I took this screenshot, last year when she did this, because she wanted to showcase her writing. And this was actually something where she was doing an internship at this organization and wrote about it. Do not think that you have to be if writing is something you are good at, or video is something you're good at, or photography is something you're good at. Do not think that it has to be about what you're trying to get a job in. What I mean by that is, I had a student several years ago. She loved music, and she used to write. She had an old blog on Tumblr that she used to write, where she would write. She wrote under 500 word reviews of new albums or songs when they came out. And she's like, why would I link that anywhere when I'm looking for jobs. And the reason I told her, but you can write, you can really write, and this shows your writing skills. If I'm looking for a copywriter or if I'm looking for a grant writer, I want to just know you can write, because let's face it, if you can write about whatever topic you're into, I can teach you to write about anything else. But having that writing skill is key. And she didn't believe me. And now she's worked at Facebook, she's worked at Google, and she creates content for them. So she's doing very, very well. I just want to show that I don't want you to think you have to have a website. Things like LinkedIn empower you to build out your profile rather than just sharing content. You can actually write stuff and people can react to it. And if an employer sees you're doing this, fantastic. So here's something else you can do. I made this video for my classes this past fall when I knew I was going to have I teach a lot of first-year students. I knew I was going to have a bunch of students who didn't know who I was, and I wanted to share more about me. This I made with a software called Adobe Rush. It's a free video editing software. Anybody could make this. It's not that hard. They also have Adobe Spark, where this was just a quick little video where I wanted to share with my students so they could get to know me. So I'm just gonna show real quick because it's super, super quick, just to show you what could be done. And this took, I don't know, maybe an hour if I'm really pressing hard. The longest part was me figuring out what did I want to say and what images I wanted to put with it. So let me show this real quick. Maybe I'm not going to show you. Good old technology. Back up here. You gonna let me play? There we go. So just a simple little video where I wanted my students to know more about me. I'm not saying you have to make a video, but it's another thing you can do. You can make it more high tech than that if you wanted to. I just wanted something quick and simple that would show both my professional side, but also my personal side. Because I think that's important. And it automatically allowed, in this case, allowing students to know me a little bit better since they weren't going to see me in the classroom. A lot of them were going to be remote. I wanted to create that. Now you could create something similar. It could be a landing page. It could be an about me page somewhere. There are services out there where you can create pages just about you, or it could be a video like this and you could link to it. Maybe you send it in a thank you note after the first interview saying, hey, thank you. If you want to get to know me more, here's something to know more about me. Up to you. Everybody has a different comfort level. I live a pretty transparent life. So I like sharing this sort of stuff. So some tactics, things you can do today, no matter what grade you are, where you are in the process, things I want you to start thinking about. First and foremost, find the thought leaders and executives in your industry. Think about where you want to work. Think about the sort of jobs you would love to do, and then find those people out there. The beautiful thing about social media is that all sorts of people use it. If there's a company that you're interested in, you can probably go find them on LinkedIn. You can probably find all the executives, find out who works there, find them on social media. Do they write a blog? Do they post stuff on LinkedIn? Maybe they write posts on Medium or some other format. Start following them. That way you can interact with them. If you see them share some cool link on Twitter, you can just say, hey, I really enjoyed that link. Don't spam them, obviously. Don't be like, hey, I need a job. Can I have a job? Don't do that. Start just interacting with them. They'll start finding you. Put in your Twitter bio. If you're following these people on Twitter, perhaps put in your bio, looking for a job doing X. Hopefully they check that out and see that. But the more people you're connected with, the better. And the best thing about the internet is that you can find these people super, super easy these days. It's not that hard to find them. Also, make sure you're consuming content so that you're on top of what's going on. One of the questions I ask every single person I've ever interviewed for a job who's going to work for me is, I say, tell me something cool you saw recently. And you'd be amazed how much that flusters people. They freak out. And I'm like, all I'm trying to do in that context, because usually I was hiring web people or graphics people or marketing people, I'm hoping they said, oh, I saw this cool video the other day, or I listened to this awesome new album the other day. It doesn't necessarily have to be industry specific, but you should know what's going on in your industry. You should, if you're hoping to work in healthcare, you should be up to date. You should be reading the magazines or the online sites that focus on that. If you want to work in digital marketing and you're not paying attention to the trends in different social networks, when you go into an interview, you're not going to be prepared. You want to have that sort of knowledge. So make sure you're consuming content. Yes, we can all get lost in like the TikTok rabbit hole for hours at end, but spend spend a little bit of time looking at other content that is relevant to you and what you want to do. And then also, if you're out there using social media in some way, consider using it for more to share stuff that you're interested in. You don't have to necessarily create a lot of your own content. If you're tweeting, if you're Instagramming, whatever, you can share things that interest you. You saw an article, you saw a cool video, perhaps one of those thought leaders that you were following or the executives posted something, or there was news about that company and you share it. That's fantastic. It's a great way to get on people's radar. It's got a little vanity going on where if someone retweets something I write, of course I get noticed. I notice it and pay attention and see who that person is. Other people do that too. You want to take it a step further, add your own thoughts. A great way if you're trying to figure out what content to create, like I just talked about, writing stuff on LinkedIn or posting stuff. An easy thing to do is to react to what other people do. There's a new, TikTok's rolling out a new feature, or Instagram's doing something new, or your favorite brand just had a crisis. Share your thoughts on it, write about it. Now, sometimes if it's a tweet, you only got 240 characters, so be creative. Your blog posting, it's got a lot longer. If you're doing a video about it, you've got even more length to do. But sharing your interests, share what interests you is key. But if you can add your thoughts, it takes it to another whole level. Also, here's something you should do right now. I don't care what you're doing, you should set up job searches. And here's the thing. Even if you're not looking for a job right now or an internship, set up the job searches that you think you want down the road, because you can keep track of who's hiring, but more importantly, you can see what they require. If you're a first-year student right now and you're thinking about an internship, after your sophomore or junior year, you might even be thinking about for the summer, but even if you're thinking down the road, or the sort of job you want, by setting up the job search, you'll see, because every job has the list of requirements and what they expect. You'll see those and you can go, okay, they need these 5 things. I should be working towards. I should be taking the classes to learn that. Or, I don't have that skill set. Maybe I should learn, if there's a specific tool they want, a software app or something, you should learn those sort of things. But by setting up the jobs, you see what people are doing. And if this isn't a top priority right now, most of these job notifications, you can set up to be notified once a week if you want, as opposed to the daily or the as it happens. So it can be sort of a passive thing. Once a week, you look at it and go, oh, cool. Because the other thing, always remember that what they share publicly for jobs, many, many times there's other things behind the scenes that they haven't posted yet. So I'm always telling people too, if you see a job that maybe you're not quite qualified for, if it's a senior position and you're just graduating, don't do that. But if you see this job that you really, really love, and maybe they're looking for 2 years experience and you don't have any, you can at least reach out to them, because there's usually a hiring manager listed, and say, hey, I'm really interested in your company. Is there any chance you have internships or other things? Because the worst you're going to hear is no. And that's easy, but you never know what might happen. Yes, literally 2 weeks ago, I tweeted out, hey, anybody looking for amazing marketing graduates? I've got some killer ones coming up in May. And this complete stranger on Twitter wrote me back and said, hey, Cece, I've got a great opportunity. I haven't posted it yet because I've been meaning to write it up. Do you have any students? And then they gave me the specifics of what they were looking for. And I know 2 students have interviews with him next week, Wheaton students. So it never, ever hurts to ask. Also, seek out events, attend and connect at them. In today's world, this is a little bit harder, but it's also a little bit easier because lots of events are virtual. You can connect in, oh, thank you, Sarah. You can connect to these events, they're free. It's harder to network and connect with people at some of the virtual events for sure, but you can at least listen to speakers. You can look at who's in attendance. That's always a helpful thing. But there are lots of free events. Like I know I always tell people one of my favorite event series is called Creative Mornings. It happens in, I think, 140 countries around the world, the first Friday of every month. They do them in Boston the first Friday, where these events happen. And if you're in any sort of creative world, people go to these events, or I miss them horribly. They're still doing them virtual, but there's lots of events, both on campus and off. Whatever you're looking for a job, I guarantee you there are professional organizations, there are professional events that you can go to. And many of them too, if you see an event that has a price tag on it, it never hurts to ask them, hey, do you have scholarships or student prices? Because sometimes I call them scholarships and it's literally just a free ticket to the event. Many events have this. They do not advertise it, but it can't hurt to ask. Worst case, the worst case, they say no again. I'm a big believer in you never hear yes if you don't ask. So ask. And then obviously I'm a big fan. I think start creating content in whatever medium is easiest for you. If you want to get noticed, if you want to have something beyond just your resume, start creating content. I don't know what that means because it means what works for you. Pick the medium that works for you. Perhaps it's Twitter, perhaps it's Instagram. I know Instagram's, everyone's got their different approach to it. Perhaps on LinkedIn, maybe it's just sharing stuff there. Like you want to keep the professional stuff, you want to keep your other stuff private. That's cool. There's nothing wrong with that. But just realize that, the more stuff you create that's public, it's Googleable, it's tied to your name. You can get a lot of interactions that way. And the final thing, because I realized I didn't put it on a slide, but I have to tout this. Talk to your professors and your advisors. What I mean by that is talk to them, get to know them. I didn't do this. Biggest mistake I ever did in college was I do not stay in touch with a single professor I had in college. I regret it, especially now because I'm in this seat. But talk to your professors, talk to your advisors, whoever you have. Because here's the thing, the more people that know what you want, the better. Last week when I had that opportunity pop up on Twitter out of the blue, there is a very specific sort of person they were looking for. And it's why only 2 people, because 2 other people, the first 2 people that came to mind, both have plans after graduation already. So they weren't looking for a job that met these sort of things. But I automatically knew in my head, oh, I know the 2 people I need to get to introduce this to. But I only knew that because I've had conversations with them. In both cases, one's a student I've had several times. One is one of my advisees. That happens all the time, no matter who your advisor or your professor is. The more they know about you, the better, because it's one of those things when I get an email, this happened, another friend of mine at monster.com was hiring and said, hey, Cece, got any students that might fit this? And it was actually a student that I had taught 5 years ago at another school. I said, I have the perfect candidate for you. She now works there. And they're both they're like, Cece, you're awesome. I'm like, no, I love playing connector. So the more people that know what you want, even if it's just an internship, even if it's just a vague, I want to do something in this field, just having that sort of knowledge is super helpful. And the Wheaton community is so small and so tight-knit in a lot of places that I'll reach out to other professors. I needed a writing person a couple of years ago for something, so I reached out to the English department and said, hey, got any rock stars that meet these sort of requirements? That happens all the time. So no matter what you're thinking, that's why earlier too I said, handshake in LinkedIn is not going to be the absolute only thing. Sometimes it's just word of mouth. It's who you know. It's who you've talked to. They call it networking, which I always drives me a little bit nuts. Because networking is like, oh, let's shake hands. No, networking is about having as many people as possible know who you are and what you want and what you do well. Those things are so key. And those don't get old, by the way. Those things are things that are going to help you throughout your entire career. So much of it is about who you know or who knows you. So don't ever shy away from saying hello to somebody. And that's why you should always be networking. Always, always, always. And networking doesn't have to be at a professional event. Networking can be sitting down over coffee. Networking can be at a party. I mean, networking happens everywhere. I don't want you to think it only has to be professional events. Some of my most closest contacts and job opportunities have come from just, I once got a contract standing in line to get coffee at an event, and I turned to the woman beside me and we started talking, and it led to a contract. You just never know. All right. So that's what I got, because I wanted to spend time. Okay, cool. I did just about as long as I wanted. This is my email address. That's the Wheaton business account, Instagram, any social network you want to look at. That's where you'd find me to see that I'm not just blowing smoke. And this is that's my personal URL, where I can be found if you want to see how I share myself and that sort of stuff.